what's your problem? You're like, you signed up for this. You know what you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Like, it's part of the sport. Grow some balls.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chorizo Bros show. Coming at you with a new video. Unfortunately, we don't have Arturo and Jeremy here. Brandon's not here. We got a brand new Chorizo Bro joining the squad right now. We got Josh here.
Hello,
say hi, Josh.
Hello, my name's Josh. I'm ready to talk about this movie we watched.
We did watch this movie. This is a movie that's something I would not have watched, and that's kind of why we wanted to discuss it today. Definitely outside my normal wheelhouse of the kinds of movies I find myself interested in, and kind of was chit-chatting with Josh about kind of the project, the Chorizo Bros project. He watched a couple of the videos and was like, dude, let's do it. Have you seen this movie Rush? So we checked that out. I watched it, and I really liked it. But I'm going to go ahead and let Josh give us a spoiler-free recommendation. Did you like it? What'd you think? And then in true Chorizo Bros fashion, we like to start off with that, and then the expectation moving forward after is that you've seen the movie, so we can do all the spoils we want, right? So go ahead, Josh, give us your take on the movie.
Yeah, for sure. While this movie wasn't, like, when it came out, a big, box office seller, I think it aged really into a respectable movie just based on how real and true to life it is to portray the events that actually happened in this crazy year of racing. And that's kind of just what made me love this movie, is that usually when you bring something to Hollywood, they're going to just exaggerate it and, to give it that dramatic, make it dramatic.
Sure,
But no, man.
Exaggerate it.
Yeah, exaggerate. Yeah, some scenes, they were exaggerated, but that was at the cost to kind of make our characters likable, build that rivalry between our main characters that you'll see and that we'll talk about. But yeah, man, from the casting of the actors all the way to the cinematography of the actual racing scenes, it's just perfect to me, and I absolutely love this movie and would recommend it not just to any F1 or race fans, but anyone just really looking to see a nice, exciting, thrilling action movie about a true rivalry, and probably one of the greatest years in that sport.
Cool. I think that's pretty much well said. I agree with you, I think 100% on it. So me not being a fan of racing per se, maybe I'm going to find myself more interested because of watching this movie. Right. I think the drama and the rivalry is kind of the big part of this. The action of the racing and everything is top notch, but the true meat of this movie is the rivalry between the two characters. Sure. The fact that it's based on real guys goes a big way in the realism. Yeah, so that was really cool. I recommend it. Yeah, you don't have to be a fan of this sport to watch this movie and have it be gripping. I think for me especially, watching it and not really understanding too much about how the machines work and how the circuits work and all that, you don't need it. No. It kind of explains it to as much as you need to know, and then it lets you just enjoy it from
and
there.
It's got the stars there too, your big actors that draws in a different audience for sure, and it's big for a sport that is growing right now because of there's tons of other documentaries and stuff coming on, and still nothing I think beats this and portrays that sport as well as this movie did.
Yeah, I don't think I know any other movie that I can remember watching younger that, as far as this sport, any movie that I've watched. I'm sure there are.
Right.
It's just this one. It's freshest, and I can't think of one. And I'm gonna remember this one. I'm gonna recommend this one to people for
That's
sure.
Awesome. Yeah.
Cool. I think I did want to say, because I did check out clips of these actual people, Niki Lauda and James Hunt. Am I getting those names right? The casting in these, I don't think I've seen a movie that got real people as down as they did in this. You were telling me something a little bit before we started actually recording. If you want to kind of let the audience know
For sure.
What was going on there with the Lauda character?
Lauda, yeah. The way they casted him was so perfect, and the how much he studied his character was amazing, because he spent weeks with Niki Lauda, kind of just picking up his mannerisms, how he acts, and not just that, but also making him look more like him with, Lauda had a very strong overbite, which is brought up in the movie a lot with Hunt calling him a rat, as,
that's brought up
him
multiple times,
right? Because he's got those buck teeth, and, they use dental implants and to make it look like that, and later in the movie, we see the big crash scene, which was just a
I didn't know
moment.
that happened.
Yeah, pivotal moment, and they get those burns just right on him. Like, he looks phenomenal. Looks just like him. As far as Chris Hemsworth playing James Hunt, I mean, just the perfect guy to be that playboy kind of asshole. Like, they casted them perfectly. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it's been a while since I've seen a movie that kind of where you see who they really are, and you go, man, that was like perfect casting. Did you ever see the movie Casino?
I did, with De Niro and Pesci.
Pesci. Did you know the character that Pesci plays?
I did not know.
I'll show you when we stop filming here. He's like looks exactly like him, and that's kind of like the reminder I got of this. I was like, man, after seeing the actual characters and then looking at the actors they picked for him, the playboy kind of party guy, and then the other guy's kind of very serious,
uptight boss,
meditative kind of character. I found that to be very well done. The way they look, the way they portray themselves. I think it does take a certain personality type. I think this is really shown in the movie. They're not enemies. They're rivals. There's a difference between enemies and rivals, right?
I feel like they start the movie as enemies. They're kind of like, who's this guy, kind of trying to piss each other off, get on each other's nerve. But as the movie progresses, they keep that rivalry, but it's more of like a rivalry there. Like there's a slight friendship there, and they're using that. They're pushing each other, and that's why they are not enemies by the end of the movie. They very much respect each other, and they went through a lot to get there. But yeah. Did you ever watch? I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep referring to other things. Do you ever watch The Prestige? No.
The Prestige is a rivalry between two magicians.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like one of Christopher Nolan's movies. It is one of his better movies, in my opinion. Everyone goes to Interstellar, everyone goes to Inception, the Batman movies, but I think The Prestige is probably his best movie.
Okay.
And it's that sort of... those guys kind of hate each other, but the way the rivalry kind of plays itself out is really good, and that's what this reminded me of. This gave me a reminiscence of The Prestige when I was watching it, and it was like, man, this is like how you do a rivalry. You make them sort of peers, you make them equal in a way, and they're always kind of one-upping each other and forcing the other one to get better.
Right.
And
Each
you
one
very
is good
much
for the other.
Yeah, you very much get that feeling of these two characters that they're challenging each other and they're becoming better at their sport because of it. Yeah.
And I think we see kind of, I don't know, going into the movie, I felt like it was going to be portrayed as Lauda's our main character and you want to be rooting for him, but it doesn't honestly feel that way. I think Lauda he almost always had the upper hand on Hunt. He kind of, he got his main seat with Ferrari first. He was a world champion first before this rivalry, that crazy year even happened. And so you kind of find yourself rooting for Hunt, kind of hoping he can get back into it and compete, because he does have, a lingering party, alcoholic problem, and you need him to get away from that. And Lauda was there pushing him, got him out of that. Hunt went and found his seat with McLaren, which was that big rivalry between McLaren and Ferrari, which was a huge thing. And you just find yourself almost rooting for both. Them on.
You do at different points go, man, like I kind of want Hunt to come up and tell this fucker to, and then it goes the other way where you go, man, like I don't want that to happen. I think there is, I don't want to call it a problem, but it was something that I noticed with the fact that Hunt died when he did. So this was all done through Lauda's perspective, the production of the movie itself. Because he passed away, Lauda did...
a few years ago.
In 2019.
Yeah, it was big.
But the movie came out in 2013, so he obviously was okaying all the stuff that was going on. And so even though he does kind of make himself look like an asshole, he does make himself look good too. And again, it's not really a problem, but I feel like the movie would have gone different. Let's say Hunt had lived.
Right. Yeah.
If Hunt and him were both equally, involved in the production, I think the story might have played out a little bit.
And
different.
I've seen things on this. I saw an interview with James Hunt's son, and his son had a very big issue with this movie, saying, they portrayed his dad more of an asshole than he was, and to dramatize the events, make it, more watchable. But they did have a problem with it because, like you said, it was, they were working with Lauda so much on this movie to get his perspective, and they never once came to, even his family to kind of find things out about
Hunt's family?
Yeah, no. And so they did have a problem. They specifically had a problem with how Hemsworth was playing that character, to a point. But yeah, great point there.
Yeah. I think it reminded me of Straight Outta Compton. Again, I said I was going to reference a lot of stuff. Did you see Straight Outta Compton?
I did a while ago. Yeah.
And you go, well, yeah, of course, the story's going to play it. It's not going to make Dre and them look like assholes.
Yeah.
Because they were there and they can make the story. They make themselves look like dicks sometimes, but not that bad.
Right.
And if you know anything about what was going on with those guys, the NWA guys, that they were all doing bad shit.
Oh, all of them.
So it would have been cool. I mean, had what happened with Easy not happened, I think that's if they were telling their story, and Easy had his equal part to say, and I don't really want that scene in there. It would have been way different. So I definitely got that vibe from this, where the story's cool. I'm glad I saw it either way. Again, it's not a problem. It is just it was this little idea I had in the back of the head where I was like, man, it does kind of suck that it's just from his, and it is what it is. I'm kind of bummed to hear that his family was like, they didn't really portray him as well as we remember. I mean, but that's human too. I mean, there's definitely stuff that I remember from my childhood that I'm like, man, I bet you there was family drama stuff going on, and I was a kid, I didn't even know. You know what I mean? Right. So there was probably,
for sure,
there's family secrets and stuff.
Absolutely.
What you got?
Man, I kind of want to start with. I kind of want to bring up how big the female characters were in this movie. Specifically, Susie and Marlene. Susie being Hunt's wife, and then they got divorced after, and then Marlene being Lauda's faithful wife for the rest of his life. They played a really interesting role for me because they kind of foreshadowed a lot of events where Susie is like a model, kind of not all there for Hunt at times. And we see it in the first scene where both couples are together and Susie's watching their race on TV, but she's not all there. She's doing her own thing, doesn't even finish the race, whereas Marlene is at the race there, rooting for him the whole time. And, once Susie goes off screen, Lauda takes the lead, and it kind of just foreshadows what's going to happen between Hunt and Susie. I didn't catch that. Yeah.
Wow.
Just that it wasn't going to work between them because she wasn't always there for him, and later on, he was not, there for her when he had that alcohol issue after he got dropped from his team. But they played a really interesting role. Also, how they met too, because Susie and James Hunt, big party people, like that's
the lifestyle.
That's how they bonded. Whereas Marlene and Lauda, they met leaving a party. They didn't want to be there, and Marlene didn't even know who Lauda was until those two guys they picked up on the side of the road started fanboying over him. Great scene.
I really like that scene. Yeah.
Great scene. But again, like Susie and Hunt, they're just
it was a physical. You get the feel that it was a physically mostly
very physical.
That they were like they're both hot people and they were kind of exploring the sexuality and stuff first, as opposed
Susie
to...
Susie knew who Hunt was beforehand,
right?
Opposed to Marlene not knowing who Lauda was, which just goes to show that, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I don't know. But yeah, they're really interesting to me, the roles that they played. And, she was always there for him, even after his big crash. There was the whole... how does your wife gonna gonna view you? How can she look at you in the bedroom, like, with your face all burned? And she's like, no, she's not there for that. She's here for me. But yeah, really interesting, their characters, and the foreshadowing that they threw in there with that.
How many times have you seen this movie?
Probably 3 times.
Yeah, I'm probably going to watch it again, especially after you say that. I bet you there was stuff, because I didn't know what the story was.
Right.
So did you know about the story before you watched the movie? You knew about the
big,
year of racing and all that?
The big thing I knew about it before was that crash, because it's such a big deal in the motorsport community. And man, they absolutely nailed it in the movie. And what I love, again, going back to the realism of this, is they used real tracks for the recording. There was nothing fake about it. That crash, where it happened, the Nuremberg Ring in Germany, that's where they recorded it, at the spot where the crash happened. And, you know, it was scary, very scary, because the
city was in there for like over a minute.
It was in there for 59 seconds,
a minute.
Caught in flames. And the big thing was that track was so big, and, you know, back in the 70s, they did not have the safety features for a track that big to get there on time. It took the marshals forever to get there, which is why he was stuck, engulfed in that flame for as long as he was. And, you know, he kind of knew it was going to happen beforehand. He knew that, you know, the conditions were not perfect for racing. That track was too big for you know, for a marshal to be on every corner helping out. But yeah. So
there was something I noticed when the crash happens. It sort of shows you a piece of the machinery of the car malfunctioning or breaking or twisting or whatever. Is that mentioned in real life? Is there something where he goes, like the whatever?
Yeah, it was. I believe his right suspension.
Did he know when he was racing?
I don't know.
Or did they investigate later?
They knew after. Yeah, they knew after.
Right.
He veered right into that wall and then spun out and then got engulfed in those flames. But yeah, he knew. Because
I remember he criticizes another driver for some move that gets him out of the race. He gets twisted around or a crash or something. Memory might be a little bit fuzzy, but he criticizes another racer. He's like, that was his own fault.
Oh yeah, that was the first race when we first meet Hunt and him. Because they were going side by side, and he said Hunt didn't give him the racing line, which is like, in the world of racing, it's you know, once you hit that corner and you've got the inside apex, it's your corner. If someone else is challenging, they've got to give you the space. And his whole thing was, he didn't give me the space, and Hunt was just like, oh, don't be an asshole about it. Like, we were just racing, you know. But yeah, Lauda was just a phenomenal racer, and not just that, he was just a great mind. He knew everything about his car at all moments. Going back to that scene when he's driving with Marlene for the first time, he's like, you know, God didn't give me a great mind, but he gave me a great ass, and I can feel everything that's going wrong in a car, and, you know, I can solve that problem. I can, you know, get the diagnostics, just have a feel for it. Yeah.
It's like intuition almost.
And that's something Hunt didn't have. Hunt was just there to drive. He relied on his team a lot more. He relied on his team a lot because when he started, got that first F1 seat, it was with Hesketh, which was his name was Lord Hesketh, basically a rich British guy, and Hesketh bought him that car. And at this time, sponsorships were big. That's how you earned your money. That's how you kept your team alive. And the big thing was, you know, cigarette companies, condom companies, bunch of lewd stuff, and Hesketh was
party
like,
stuff.
Yeah, we're not going to have that because I can pay for it, and that comes back to bite them in the ass because they run through all their money, and that's what ends up ending the Hesketh team, and basically that sends Hunt down that tunnel of alcoholism, and then you know, lashing out at his wife, leading into the divorce. But Lauda didn't have that issue. He was, you know, they show him, he goes to Austria to try to get his family to back him because they're all business people, they own banks. They don't want to back him, they want him to go into the family business. And he says, I'm not going to do that. I know cars. I know that I know cars. You know, I'm going to go get my own loan, do my own thing. And he does that. He goes to a team, he says, look, I can make your car much better than what it is. And he does because he knows it. and that's how he gets his leverage to, move up in the world. And he consistently does that. He goes to Ferrari, and Ferrari are the big names. You don't ever disrespect them, and his disrespect them. And his first drive with them, he says, "This car's a piece of shit." Like, what you have all these.
Oh yeah, I remember
all
that.
these
He was like, the guy was offended.
Yeah, and he was like,
I
"You can't say that about Ferrari," and he's like, "It's a shitbox. Like, it's we got to make it better," and he does. He goes out there and he wins a world title, and prior to the whole rivalry season.
Yeah. I think they could have, obviously for the dramatic effect of the movie, the rivalry is a key point, but I think they could have just made an interesting story of without the rivalry.
Yeah.
They could have told a story that, not really understanding his place with his family, and like the excluding the rivalry. I think that story is still really interesting. I think the rivalry is the key part of how this story, this particular movie. But the story itself doesn't need it to be interesting.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, his
the
come
cars
up
are
was,
interesting.
His come up was this what could have been a story on its own for sure.
Yeah. It's really, really crazy how that came out of nowhere. Because you got to keep in mind, I didn't know anything about the race. Didn't know anything about these racers. You could have told me this was an entirely fictional movie, and I would have been like, yeah, it was badass. I liked it.
Yeah.
But the fact that it really happened was like,
yeah, it was a Hollywood script before they even sent it to Hollywood.
So you mentioned there is that parallel between racing in general, because it's not just this type of racing. It's pretty much any car racing. There's that quintessential, when I think of knowing about cars as a child, like seeing like races, like my grandpa would watch it and shit. Seeing like the Tide car. It was like this orange car that had Tide on the front. And you see these things, all these brand names were such a big thing with racing, right?
Yeah.
So there's a parallel between that and the movie itself, and I was wondering to get your take on it, because again, there's this constant thing of branding, product placement.
Right.
So you said that first off, there's no way Hemsworth was cheap to get. They must have paid him a lot to do this. And I forget the guy that plays Lauda himself. He was phenomenal, but I don't really know that actor that much, and I'm blanking on his name now. He was great.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But you said that they actually went to that course to film some of this?
They went to multiple of the
locations.
Yeah.
That couldn't have been cheap.
No.
Yeah, so I was looking at this, and there were some pretty serious shots of the brands.
Right.
And I was like, they must have paid to
for sure
help make this movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually didn't even think about that.
It's all over the place.
The products were, I don't know if they were, because when this movie came out, they're not allowed to use those tobacco brands and those condom brands anymore. Because back in the day, they said, this is not good. This is, sending out the wrong message, even though it was bringing in the most money.
Sure.
So I actually don't know if. I
don't remember seeing like Trojan or anything on there, but I did see the Marlboro one.
Yeah, that's the
big
one.
And I definitely saw some other ones, but it was just like, wow.
John Player.
It was a clever way in terms of filmmaking, because you don't ever want to do that. You don't ever want to have like the obvious, the character pick up the drink and then the labels towards the camera. Yeah, so it's like you always want to do it a little clever, and I think that the shots in here. Like, the car would pass, but it'd stay for just a second. You see Coca-Cola in the back.
Yeah, you can see that.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, I really noticed that, and that's just because I'm looking for it. You know, and I was aware of, the 20% of the conversation of this movie is, like, the brand names. They're constantly bringing it up. And it's cool. It is what it is. I mean, you need sponsorship to make movies, too.
Absolutely.
So, there's a parallel between the movie making and getting the car.
Right.
Getting the car, getting the driver, getting whatever. I really like that. I thought that was a pretty cool, and I think it was just a happy accident. I don't think anyone was going, we're trying to make this
just
what it is.
Out.
They were like, hey, Coca-Cola, you want to foot the bill for this trip we're taking? Because you got to think, camera operators, lighting, all the stuff they would have had to physically take over there. And then these were probably stripped down cars for the filming. It probably wasn't. They probably weren't using racing gear for it. But It must have been expensive.
Oh yeah,
Expensive
and
to do
even
this.
today we have there's a brand new F1 movie that just got announced.
Oh, it's not out yet?
It's not out yet, no, but they have already announced that, this is going to be the most expensive movie ever made, because again, they're doing real camera work at the real events. And I know for this new one, they are driving a real car around that track at the same time that a real race is happening, to make it as fully realistic as possible. So yeah, no, these movies
That's
are not cheap.
insane.
Not cheap. I'm pretty sure this new one's just called F1, and it's with Brad Pitt. But we just got the trailer
playing a
for
famous?
that. He's playing a driver for a team.
Do you know who he is?
No, I'm pretty sure he's a fictional character.
Oh, okay.
They're just adding his team to the universe because he's racing with real teams. So you're going to see the real actual athletes that we see race every week in this movie. He's just
that's crazy.
alongside them.
See, now that's a movie I would not have watched, and
Yeah.
now I'm kind of like, man, I want to see that.
Yeah.
It sounds
Pretty
sick.
crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy how and I think that's what part of my excitement for the Chorizo Bros project was. I mentioned in the beginning having Josh come in and sort of. I need that. I need to open my eyes to things that I would thoroughly enjoy that I didn't know or didn't think, oh man, that would be badass, because it's not part of my run of the mill everyday interests.
Right.
And now I'm like, man, that's fucking badass,
Yeah.
dude. So I don't know that you and I have ever actually had a conversation about racing before. Maybe in passing we're like, oh, I watched this, or maybe commented something on the television or something.
Yeah.
But it's so cool, man. I'm probably going to watch this again. I know there's I was scrolling around on Prime Video to watch this. I rented, streamed it or whatever, and I saw there was a documentary about them too. Did you watch it?
I haven't, but I saw it this morning.
I'm probably going to watch
I saw it on there.
Yeah, I'm probably going to watch it because I do think it's going to contradict some of the stuff that's in the film, and I'm
for sure
prepared for that. I'm prepared for it to be very different than
going back to portraying Hunt a bit better, maybe.
Yeah, it's a lot of exaggeration, a lot of hyperbole for the sake of the story. And I'm a character story guy in the stuff that I like, and I read a lot of books, so that's kind of my go-to. Like setting, sometimes I don't care as much about, but I love interesting characters, and I love just a good plot, and this movie has that for sure. I also made a note about the soundtrack. I think that when it interjects music, and not score, not unlicensed stuff, the actual songs.
Right.
I really like that.
Yeah,
I really liked
mixed
it.
with the high octane, those engine sounds. I wish I could have seen this in theaters, with the whole system. It would have been badass.
Yeah. I'm kind of less so about theaters now. I think COVID fucked that up. Movies just are kind of terrible now at the theaters. But big movies like that, like this, really getting the sounds of the engines going by and really getting the how big it is, the scope of the tracks, that would be sick in the theater, in a good IMAX even shit.
Yeah.
No, it's fantastic. The soundtrack really stuck out to me. I didn't write down any of the songs that were playing, but when they come up, you're gonna feel it. They feel appropriate.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
They really. Do you have any more notes on there that we can kind of talk about? Because we kind of ran through. I maybe have a couple more to bring up.
Yeah.
Anything that you thought kind of stuck out?
I think. I think I'm just cool to chit chat. I kind of just got a timeline here and just kind of talking about stuff as they go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think kind of going back to what you were saying about how they could have made this movie entirely just about Lauda and not really focus on that rivalry is completely valid, because we see him actually dominating the sport for a few years before Hunt gets back into it, and all due to himself.
No, it's good. Yeah, I was actually thinking about a line that Lauda says when it's towards the end of the movie, and he is kind of reminiscing about the story, and he mentions that he did see him as a rival. He saw Hunt as a rival, but he also kind of had a jealousy towards him, and I found that to be really interesting too. That each saw something in the other that they were lacking. Like Hunt, at least in terms of this story, I can't speak on who he was actually as a person, and it's probably hyperbolized, But he seems to lack discipline. He seems to not really be into the centering yourself, taking stuff serious, not getting distracted.
Yeah.
He seems to not really be about that. He's a hot shot risk taker.
Right, and he doesn't have people there for him either.
Yeah, and that's something that Lauda, I think, kind of, maybe that's kind of what he's thinking too. Is like, man, I wish I had a little bit of that.
Right, I wish I had gone out and partied a little bit here and there.
Just let your hair down or whatever.
Right.
There's that part, and I really liked that Hunt. They're having a meeting about whether or not the race should go because it's raining,
Mm-hmm.
and he goes, they outvote him, and he goes over to Lauda and he's like, sometimes it pays when people like you, or like it's better when people like you or something. And I was like, yeah, because this guy would be insufferable.
Yeah.
The way he's portrayed, I'm like, yeah, he's badass and that's all cool and stuff, but I wouldn't find him fun to hang out with.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
Like maybe to learn from, maybe to have as a mentor or something, or like a teacher, for sure, without question. But to like hang out with and enjoy myself, hell no.
No.
Hell no. I think that's a reflection of his wife also. I think that their relationship, whilst I like that, I think he probably, he's still a man. You don't think he was like looking at these hot models and go, damn, like.
Right, and you see that early on. You see that when he goes out and he's racing with BRM at first, and he's looking over at the track manager, and then they go on. He's walking through that tunnel as he's leaving, and his teammate, his name was Regazzoli or something like that, comes up to him, and he's like, do you know who that woman is? I wouldn't go out with her. She's a big party animal, and the last guy she was with, like, insane guy could have sex all night to all day, and tonight again. And he's like, who are you talking about? He's like, James Hunt. He's like, oh, God, shit.
Damn it. Yeah.
He wanted that a little bit, and then,
Yeah.
But yeah, that was very interesting. They definitely do see qualities in each other that they wish they had, and they do bring that up at the end for sure.
But this is specific to the sport and the art of racing. It's for a lot of just regular people. Just racing in general is dangerous and risk taking. It is like these guys are already on a level of like, dude, you're risking your life every time you go out there.
Yep.
So they're already risk takers. They're already adventurous types. So to see this guy have that like monkish quality in that realm, and then still for people to not think he's a risk taker, is really, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's already like a crazy thing, and then for them, people to go, he's kind of conservative with his risk taking, he doesn't really fuck with it. I found that to be a really interesting thing in just as a person, as a admirer of what I was watching. It was like, I'm looking at him like, damn, these guys all have balls.
Yeah.
And they're kind of acting like, and then you think Hunt, you go, God damn, that guy's a real fucking, real risk taker, dude.
I actually think it actually showed that very early on in one of their first Division 1 races, where they're in like a practice or a qualifying session, and everyone's just kind of on the side of the track, and then they hear, oh, there's a crash. And so everyone goes over to see it, and, there's a guy, and he's just decapitated because, he went through a guardrail, and that's the first kind of sign that we see of, this is serious. Like, you are risking everything to go out there. And Hunt kind of realizes that, and he's like, that's kind of scary. And he's like telling this to Lauda, and Lauda's like, what's your problem? You're like, you signed up for this. You know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Like, it's part of the sport. Grow some balls. And he's like, and they both go on and call each other asshole. But then I see it kind of flip towards the end of the movie, because then we see Lauda actually, he didn't have something to lose at the start of the story.
Yes.
Now at the end he does, and he goes out into that last race, and he ends up retiring because he's scared to do anything to himself for the sake of his wife, and he has something to lose. He never cared about himself, but now that we've got this whole story of their relationship and how happy they were, he does have something to lose, whereas Hunt really never had anything to lose. He could always just go out there, not really worry about it, go race after, just go party.
Because he didn't have that, have it locked in that way.
Yeah, he was.
Everything was kind of temporary and wear it out until it's not fun anymore. Kind of.
Sure.
I almost got that vibe from him. At least the way Hemsworth is portraying it. I wanted to ask you if you thought of this because it was something that I as I was watching the throw up, the vomit scenes.
Yeah.
Okay, so every time I see an athlete do that, what I think of, and I don't know where I got this from. I don't know why this is like some memory that I have, or this like thing that I remember, but that like jockeys are short. They're borderline dwarfs. They're little and they're petite, and they're like one of the worst cases of like rampant anorexia and bulimia. Because they in their heads they're thinking it can give them a little bit more time on the horse.
Right,
the horse can go a little bit faster.
Lighter,
if you're a little bit lighter, if you purge right before the race. So when I saw him do that, I do think it's probably nerves, but I guess equated racing and he's just. They got to make the car lighter. They got to make it more powerful and lighter.
Think about that.
So, but I just thought of it. I'm not saying that's what it is, but I thought about it every time he did it. They go, he's hyped up. It means he's amped about the race, and you go, okay, I can take that as an answer.
Yeah.
But I was almost getting the vibe of it, like reminding me of horse racing for some reason. Something about it made me go, I wasn't thinking, he's gonna if he loses a third of a pound because he throws up before a race, what the fuck ever, but.
Right, I always took that it's his nerves with a grain of salt as well, but I think I kind of viewed it not as a weight thing towards racing, but more so kind of just alluding to his problems as an alcoholic, as someone who's constantly partying, because right after he does that, right after the first time he throws up, first thing he does when he gets to the car, shot of champagne, toke of a cigarette, like gets in right away. That's kind of how I took it.
I can see that too.
He always just had that problem, and
so he was always riding the line of like sobriety.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
The whole day. Yeah, that's.
But what you brought up was very interesting. It does make a lot of sense.
Maybe it was like a subconscious thing.
Yeah.
Because I would think that somebody that's into car racing, when he gambles, he probably goes to horse races. Like it seems a pretty easy thing to do, because you don't think when you're with jockeys specifically, that's like a rampant problem. Like they say that is a big thing with them, is that they all have that because they want to maintain. I mean, it's for everything. It's like boxing; you have to make weight. You see these guys, they balloon up after a fight because they were so disciplined, so strict, just trying to get weight.
Yeah, for sure. No, the weight thing is very serious in racing too. They've got their weigh-ins before and after, and they got to weigh the car as well.
Yeah, so sure. I think there's it just struck me. There was something about that detail that I was like, huh,
very interesting.
You know what I mean? It was a weird parallel that I noticed.
That's cool. I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I always just thought it was the alcohol thing.
It probably is.
Yeah.
It probably is in real life. It
could be all three.
Yeah, it could be all three. It could be that idea or that instinct to purge right before. Yeah, sure. So I don't know. I just thought it was kind of cool. It was just something I noticed.
It turns into like a superstitious thing as well, maybe.
Right.
Does it once, worked out, just keep doing it.
Yeah, that's a thing too. I think with athletes are very superstitious.
They've got all their pre-game, post-game rituals. Very serious.
It's really interesting to see that. That's cool, and it's you think like mathematically it kind of would work a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if
for sure.
There's something about it.
For sure.
Yeah, you got anything else on there?
This
doesn't have to be too long of a podcast. This is kind of another filler episode anyways.
Sure.
Just to kind of see. Because there was another scene that I found to be interesting, and I don't know how much.
Yeah, go for it.
So there's that scene, and again, this might be one of those things that made Hunt's family kind of like, well, that wasn't a good look. He's playing. It's Hemsworth like sitting like cross-legged in his room in his house, and he's playing with the
toy car.
The toy car.
Yeah, a little toy track.
And
That was while he was waiting for his new seat to open up.
Yeah, so there's a combination of being emasculated by his wife, and they don't show a scene of this, but he does mention, Dad wanted me to be like this or whatever. I had all the opportunities to do this, and I said, fuck that, I want to race. So him and Lauda actually kind of have that in common in terms of that. But you never see Lauda break. You never see him, like, why choose to have him sitting cross-legged in front of his wife? It's not a good look.
Because he always had things handed to him.
Right, because it's...
Yeah, he always had that, he always had someone handing it to him, paying for his things, and you see that when he finds out that Lauda paid for his own drive, or paid for his way in. He got that big loan to start himself up, and he says it to him. He's like, how's that loan treating you? How's it treating you? How's it paying off that you're paying your way in? Whereas he always had someone around him giving him that.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think that it was almost a little bit of a jab. I felt like,
for sure,
in terms of the movie making, because that's a scene. I mean, him just being drunkenly like arguing with his wife, whatever, but that extra sort of sting of him looking like a child was kind of a lot. I felt like.
Absolutely.
Like, can you imagine someone telling your story and you in a bad moment, you and your wife are having problems, but they show this scene? There's no way anyone told him that he did that.
Right.
He never told Lauda, yeah, man, I was arguing with Olivia Wilde, his wife, the actress that plays it. And I was sitting in my underwear playing with my cars.
Drinking beer.
Yeah, no way, dude.
Nope.
No
and you
way.
Never say, they never show that. You're right. They never show Lauda like that.
They never show
him going out and doing the job to get things done.
Or even when he's unsure, he's like, I think is it right after he got married? Yeah, him and his wife go, or she's upstairs and she finds him and he's just kind of like pondering and he looks stoic. They make him look strong. So again, there's that straight out of Compton thing where you go, well, it's only from the one side,
Right, for sure.
So, yeah, he does. I would rather much more be portrayed as an asshole in a story than as a child.
Oh, 100%.
Most of us would take asshole
100%.
over child.
Yeah. I would not want to be portrayed as, I had everything handed to me. Because he most definitely in real life probably worked very hard, to get where he was. But yeah, you're definitely right. That is a jab.
It felt like a jab.
Yeah.
When I was watching it felt like a jab.
Yeah, for sure.
I was kind of like, that was unpleasant.
Yeah. Unreal.
Aside from alcoholism, do you know if he had any other issues with maybe substance abuse or anything?
I actually
that's just out of curiosity. Nothing against him.
No, I haven't heard anything about drugs or anything like that. Just the alcohol.
Just the partying.
Yeah. Hard partying. I mean, there probably was. They go hand in hand.
Yeah,
but
of course. And when was this?
Not that I've heard.
This wasn't cocaine yet.
No, this was in the It was in the 70s.
I feel like cocaine's very 80s.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit after. So no, just cigarettes and chain smoking and drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm eager to see the documentary they made. Yeah. Cause
I do hope it focuses a bit more on Hunt. Cuz he wasn't around much longer after the events in the movie played. I think he said he got a heart attack like 2 years after those events played out.
Yeah. He
was
like
actually okay. So I do know this. Once he left the sport, and it goes back to him and Lauda kind of turned into more friends. He still had his bad alcoholic problem after he won the championship, and he went broke twice. And both times, Lauda gave him money to kind of pull himself out of it. First time didn't work. Second time, he actually became a broadcaster for racing on the BBC. So Lauda, again, kind of going back to, he had things handed to him a lot, at least from what we see. And that fact after I know was true. He did have things handed to him. And even Lauda, his biggest rival, was handing him things. Because he got that job from him.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you think that, not to get not to get like I don't want to say anything disrespectful towards anybody. Do you think culturally, because that's something the joke about German people being stiff and serious, and what is Lauda, Austrian?
Yeah, he's Austrian.
That kind of is cultural a little bit. It's not just personality. It's part of their culture. Is they take things a little bit serious. Do you feel like that's disrespectful to say? It's okay if you do. But I was getting that vibe. Watching this was like, because that's a stereotype of German people. Is like,
I think it's completely fair, but also at the same time, we got that backstory of Lauda was raised by a very successful family, business family, and I think he picked up a lot of that from them because, even though he left them and went and did his own thing, we do see moments in the movie where he still has a lot of that, businessman in him because, when he does a certain thing, when he built that car up for BRM and they asked him, "What'd you do to the car?" He didn't give it to them. He was like, "I'm gonna use it as leverage to get a little bit more out of myself. Make sure I'm in the sport. Like, give me my 2-year contract, and I'll tell you the secrets."
Chip.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think he definitely picked up a lot from his family, but it could also be totally playing from that stereotype. And
it's just something I noticed.
Yeah.
Because it's part of I think even the way Hunt is British.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that there's definitely a play on that too,
Yeah.
of the kind of different cultural stuff. So if they had an American in there, they would lean into the stereotypical American stuff too, because we have our cultural hang-ups.
Absolutely.
Too. So it's interesting that the Olympics are kind of happening right now, and we decided to talk about this. I thought that was really cool.
Sure.
No, man, I definitely wanted to thank you for bringing this movie to my attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that we've been lacking, since we're talking about culturally, in movies. I think I'm going to sound like a boomer. I think everything's gotten so safe and so politically correct and everything that, like, I can see people not liking this movie for reasons of, like, the nudity and it is macho. It is macho. It's very male. Yeah. Like, I can see.
It's just the sport in general.
It's the sport in general, sure. But even the storytelling, I think. I think this is a guy's movie.
For sure.
And
got the Marlboro all over everything. Like,
well, just
sex for breakfast for champions.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's a very guy's movie, and I kind of miss that. I miss. Since I don't know if you're familiar with the show, we kind of go back and look at movies from, like, the past, and, like, I feel like movies just don't hit like that anymore. It's
watered down.
And I wish it would we could bring it back a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to see that. I want to see this kind of movie again. I want to see Olivia Wilde and him are in the bath, and I'm like, oh, full frontal. I feel like I haven't seen that in a while.
Yep.
Not being a fucking skeezy, trying to sound like a skeezy guy, but it was kind of shocking.
Yeah.
In the recent movies that come out, they don't really fuck with it like that.
Don't see that anymore.
You don't see it anymore.
It catches you off guard.
Yeah, and there's Hemsworth. He does a nude scene. You're like, cool. That's not that. I was more interested in the Olivia Wilde.
yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like they weren't afraid to go there.
Right.
And I respect that.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
loved that as watching, like you said, movies get watered down. This is a badass movie. It's not really violent.
Mm-hmm.
The language is pretty cut down. I think he almost says cunt once.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
He says it, but an engine cuts him off. Like you don't get the full word. I thought that was they were probably just trying to get an R rating.
Yeah.
And they cut it out, but it was there.
For sure.
So the language, the racing, the nudity, the partying.
The realism.
It's the danger.
Yeah.
Maybe not violence, but danger.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's very, and it shows that gruesomeness with all the crashes we see. It was could be disgusting, but
sure,
it's real life.
Yeah, I liked the details they showed. There's that part where they drill a hole in the visor, and it's like, for the average viewer of something like that, you wouldn't think anything of it.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to even show that scene. You could just be like, whatever, they're racing and it's dangerous. I understand it's dangerous, but then to get because you're thinking the physics of how fast these things are going, and you're like, damn, Yeah, it might let water in, but there's going to be no condensation. I was like, man, that's cool. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah, so I found that all to be very, very cool. And then, medical science at that time, the burn, I feel like he probably should not have been racing in terms of...
6 weeks after.
Yeah.
6 weeks after getting your lungs vacuumed and...
Oh, that scene where they put the tube in his lung?
Yeah. Yeah, disgusting.
Yeah.
But,
so, yeah, like you said, realism, man.
But he wanted,
he was ready.
Again, he was just committed. He was always committed to the sport. It was just his passion. That's why he left. That's what he wanted to do. And they show after, when the movie ends, they show him, he gets into planes. He's not really in the sport anymore.
That's right, yeah.
I wish they would have covered a bit more after, because he does get back into the sport. He actually goes and races for McLaren, which was Hunt's team, a few years after. And then you brought up, he died 2019, I think you said.
Yeah.
But before that, 6 years before that, he got back into the sport and was working for Mercedes as just their technical guy. Put the car together.
So that was like about when this movie came out.
Yeah. Yeah, he was.
It came out in 2013.
Yep.
So he would have been working around that time when it was either, because obviously these are filmed well before they come out.
Yeah. And he wasn't just there helping. He was the guy. Because if you look at the years he was there, he built Mercedes up, and Mercedes won everything. Everything. And he knew everything.
Yeah,
he knew everything. It's what he loved.
Interested to see this.
So cool that he just stuck with his guns, went and got it, and just an amazing story.
It's great. I'm probably going to put this up there with some of my favorite sports movies. I was just talking to my kid brother or kid sister the other day about Rocky, the first Rocky movie, and she was like, I haven't seen it. The fuck have we not seen Rocky? And I, say what you will about that time in filming and whatever, but you gotta admit, Rocky 1 at least.
Oh yeah.
Top notch. This is up there.
For sure.
This is up there. I think I enjoyed everything about it. The acting was superb. The writing was superb. It wasn't too long. It wasn't over long. It could have gone longer, and I would have been cool with that.
Right on.
It's not, even though it is a racing movie, the pacing is fine.
Yep.
It doesn't feel too fast.
No.
You don't feel like this is an ADD kid movie. This isn't, this is like a movie my dad would watch. You know what I mean? In a good way. I mean that respectfully, I could see my pop watching this.
They got their exciting racing moments. They've got their family storytelling.
Yeah.
It's meshed together perfectly.
It's great. I think we probably hit a punctuation towards the end of the film.
Yeah.
Unless you had any other points that you'd like to bring up, I think we're pretty much done for this.
Just an amazing, true to story. I'd say 80% of that was just right on the ball. It was really good. Definitely my favorite racing movie. I'm excited to see in the future. We were talking about that F1 movie in the future. They could take some pointers from this, and I hope they do. But yeah, definitely recommend this for sure.
It's 2 thumbs up over here, guys.
Yeah,
for sure. All right, well, I think I think we've reached the end of the video. I'd be happy to have you back on the show if you want to come back another day.
Absolutely.
And maybe you can enlighten me on another movie I might not have watched, and we can
for
kind
sure.
of hash
or you
it out.
can enlighten me, get me to watch something.
Maybe you guys can comment below and give us an assignment. We'll knock that out. And this is one of the times of the year that all the Chorizo Bros are busy. I happen to be the one that's not as busy. So eventually we might have one of them back on. You can meet them, and we can kind of do
Absolutely.
But I had a great time. I think
I did too.
I hope
fun.
you've been enjoying yourself so far. I want to come back and talk about a badass movie or one that you hate that I really love, or vice versa.
That would be interesting.
But hey, guys, we're gonna get out of here. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, comment, like, and subscribe. Do all the things, and we're gonna be back at you with another video in the future. I think Josh is gonna come back at some point, guys. Thanks again, you guys. Bye.
Bye.